everybody. It's Christa of Practical Astros, and here with my Astro bestie, Mandi Rae of Ecstatic Astrology. Hi, Mandi.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty well. Glad to be here. It's Thursday, August 21st, and we are going to talk about the month of September, which we have lots and lots and lots to talk about. But first, how has August been for you?
Well, I think that's probably why I said, how are you? When I how are you is for everyone. How are you guys? It's been interesting. It's been less benefic than I wanted it to be.
Yeah, this morning the clouds lifted so I could see Venus and Jupiter and the moon together. The moon was crescent shape, and I was like, I'm kind of waiting to see what this benefic enclosure of the moon and also the conjunction. And Sonia and I did kind of a talk about of like the whole synodic cycle of Jupiter and Venus. And October 8th, we will get to see the crescent phase of that conjunction. So I'm hoping by then, at least, we'll see something good of this, because so far it's still in the dark. I'm waiting for it and have hope, that some good things are brewing, because it has been intense just globally and personally. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree with all of that. I haven't had a chance to look at it. It's almost like, I don't wanna. I'm so mad at it. I don't want to see how bright you are, Venus.
I'm mad at you.
I'm mad at you. I mean, it is in Cancer, so it's very in your feels.
Yeah. Yeah. It probably thinks that we're mad at them.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, you don't get anything good then.
I'm going to share the calendar that I made real quick. We're going to use your emoji calendar, but just to kind of go through what it's going to look like. We have eclipses coming up for September. That's going to happen on the 7th and on the 21st, but there's lots of other things. Mostly Mercury is going to, I think, be the king for the month, moving into Virgo, where it's exalted and at home. It's going to cazimi the sun. It's going to oppose things and trine things and square things. It's going to be very mercurial. And Uranus, which is in Mercury's temple, will be going retrograde. So, there's other things going on, but it does feel, just at first glance, it's going to be kind of a mercurial time. What do you think?
I would happen to agree with you. I think it has been, even August was mercurial to me, especially with the retrograde and all of that jazz. But yeah, I agree. Mercury's king.
I'm going to stop my share so you can show your calendar, and then we can start with the month, because the month begins with Saturn retrograding back into Pisces.
That is correct. I'll make this full screen. I would like to make it full screen. So this is my September calendar, and it is pretty full. There are some lulls, I think, as far as
LULs or LOLs.
lulls. There are plenty of lulls, aren't there? But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that is like, I feel like it's going to be maybe busy, but also there's some quietness, probably because the eclipses that I'm intuiting here. But lots of squares. There's not much trine energy, I would say. There's a couple of things, but most of it's just adjustments. I think it's a month of adjustments.
Yeah, it's funny to see that spilled coffee up there. So I found this website that has these quotes from children, and I went through and was just laughing at all of them. But then I just screenshot a bunch and then added the signs to each one. And for Virgo, it was a child saying, is a hot mess when you spill your coffee. They were trying to figure that out, and I was like, that's very Virgo. And it's funny that you put that there with Mercury.
You know what? I looked up the emoji, because I look up words to find my emojis, like just to see what pops up on Canva. And I looked up hot mess.
That kid was onto something. That brilliance.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, that's what it felt like to me. It was just like, Mercury square Uranus, with Uranus, them both sort of in Mercury's sign. Both of them, one Mercury's at home in Virgo, but his other house is being messed with by Uranus. So I was like, oh man.
Feels like Uranus it's slow too. So it's like driving with like your axle broken down the road, making like a screeching noise, having that square. And this is the first time they've squared off in these signs, because the last time we've had squares, it's been from the fixed. Like this is the first time it's been square from this mutable.
Yeah. I mean, it's been quite a while since Uranus has been an immutable sign. I mean, because it is so slow.
Yeah.
But it's been, man, when was it in Virgo? Since it's been in Mercury's sign, let me look at that. I would like to know when Uranus was in Virgo. Because
And
it's
we're
been,
talking about this because Mercury goes into Virgo on the 2nd. It was retrograde in August in Leo, and then it moved into Virgo, where it is at home and exalted. It's the only planet that has that dual rulership by domicile and exaltation, which is just very cute and mercurial to be duplicitous like that.
it really is. And I guess we could just go ahead and start with this because we're talking about it already. So the first, I guess the first thing that happens is Saturn retrograding back into Pisces.
Yeah.
And that is truthfully, I
Looking
don't know.
forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, you can always think something's going to be wonderful as an astrologer, and until you live it and feel it, you don't know exactly. Astrologers have blind spots, I think. And so, like with the benefic, I was focused so much on that benefic conjunction that I forgot about Mars being where it was, doing the things it was. And I
Like
was
opposing Saturn.
like opposing Saturn specifically. Yeah. And just how much that took center stage rather than the benefic energy. Now, that doesn't mean, and I tell my clients this a lot, because just because it doesn't necessarily feel that way in the moment doesn't mean something's not getting seeded in that moment. And so whether or not you felt like it was a great time, likely something in your life was beginning or starting or seeding that will be benefic. So that's just kind of how I was thinking about it. But Saturn retrograding back into Pisces means it's out of Aries, and Aries is a Mars sign. So I think with it being Jupiter ruled now, it kind of takes a little bit of a rest. Saturn's already turned more inward as it's going retrograde. But in Pisces, it's extremely inward. And so that's why I have the floating head, because it feels like our heads might be floating. So Aries rules the head. And when you think about Saturn retrograding back into the feet sign, it's a very kind of super dichotomy, but your head and your feet are the truncated parts of your body. That's it. So it's like we're being worked on by Saturn from head to toe, is what I was thinking. And I'm looking forward to my feet being worked on again.
Yeah, time for another pedicure.
Oh,
It reminds me of that Ophelia painting that's like John Waterhouse, where she's floating, in the reeds. I saw a meme that somebody had like her floating in a ball pit, like at a McDonald's.
I mean, and there's Jupiter, right? That's the Jupiter part of that.
Yeah. I was on a work call last week, and before the call started, somebody was talking about like different types of workouts that they were doing. Like they were trying to just have more fun on their workouts. And the way he described it is like there's different types of like pleasure that you get from working out. And sometimes you do it and it's not pleasurable at all, but you get this endorphin rush afterwards. And it's almost like when I trained to run a 5K, it's that first 10 minutes, I hated life. And why was I in this position? Why was I making this choice to run? Like I was like, but then like that 11th minute, you would like get to this point of like, you would just get over yourself. And that's how I'm kind of imagining that pleasure of all this work that we've done with Saturn and Aries. When we kind of come back to that Saturn and Pisces, we might get a little bit of a reflection of like, man, that was just so necessary to do. And we're going to be, our Saturnine muscles are going to be a little bit more primed when we go back into it to be able to handle it and get some big work done, get that cardinal changing work done. But it's just kind of exhausting at this point. And so I'm looking forward to it just for that, of just having kind of like a rest day for the entire time that Saturn is in Pisces.
Yeah, I do think that that will be a felt experience for a lot of people. At least I hope so, because it has been, it's just, I feel like exacerbated is the word I get about everything with Saturn and Aries. Everything's been exacerbated. And, I guess the start of Saturn and Aries had Jupiter squaring it. So it makes sense that it's been so extra. And I don't think we're going to have that same experience when Saturn does move back in Aries again, because Jupiter will be moving on. And even towards the end of Saturn retrograde, Jupiter will trine it, so maybe just some comfort coming in, some things feeling like you understand. And I think that also leads us into September 2nd, because Mercury going into Virgo, where the South Node is, it's going to immediately square Uranus on the 3rd. There's just some things that I think are clicking into place with Mercury moving into Virgo, like understanding,
Yeah.
the details being worked on. And what do I want to, I think we said this before we started recording, but what do we want to keep and what do we want to Marie Kondo with our routines? If we've got, and I do have personally, I know you do too, Chris, a lot of new stuff coming in, a lot of stuff going out, stuff going away, and that will mess up your routine. And Virgo is traditionally a sign of routine and ritual, and it's an earth sign, and it's about healing and health, and there's so much richness to Virgo. So when Mercury moves into it, there's some things I think that we can work on as far as routine goes, maybe even self-care. And what do we want to not worry about anymore, which is something we've said for the South Node in Virgo. What do we want to let go? And how do we do it? And how do we switch up our routines to do it?
Yeah.
And I think maybe that comes with the 3rd, the Mercury square to Uranus, because it's like, I've got to change this right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I had this moment in my life a couple of years ago where I got to that point where I just like had this mania of like, I got to take a walk right now and figure some shit out ASAP. Like it had come to that breaking point, and that walk, that movement, the conversation with my husband, like we were able to like just make some really quick decisions, and we changed and pivoted some big things in our life on that walk. But it came after that eruption, and that's my favorite thing about Uranus is the ability to erupt things that have outgrown themselves, like the Tower card in Tarot. It's like it's collapsing because it is unsustainably tall. It got too big for its britches. The gods shot it down. It needed to regenerate into something else. And so Mercury squaring that, having that mercurial ideas clash and something else comes out of it. It is kind of a clashing thing, but I like it better than when it was being squared by Aquarius or Leo. When Mercury was in those and it was squaring the Taurus Uranus, I like it. I like this better because it's mercurial. So maybe it's technological. Maybe it's you spill hot coffee on your laptop and that really screws up things. And it's like one of those things that like it just sucks, but it's something good will come from it if you use that opportunity to make some shifts. Like maybe don't have your cup of coffee near your computer. I don't know what the lesson of that is, except just to be mad at that point. But I think of it in communication and technological ways too, because it's Mercury. Think of it financial, of some sort of squaring off some sort of thing that has come to a head that needs to be overcome. That's the nature of Mars. It's the aspect of Mars. It is like you've got to work through this to overcome it so that you can flow forward. And I am looking at this kind of like, all right, well, it's coming. Let's see what happens, but with a little less fear, because it's not unfixed. It's not coming from an Earth Uranus. It's coming from an air Uranus. So, yeah,
I agree with you. And also, I mean, as much as you can look at something and go, oh, that's going to be a thing, it doesn't, dreading it doesn't really help. It's none of these things with astrology. You can prepare to a certain extent, and I do use it to prepare, but that's pretty much the best you can do with any transit is just prepare and be aware and Maybe that's my motto for my astro weather updates. Prepare and be aware. It's like, have you ever seen the weather guys on YouTube now? Like there's
Yeah.
these, Ryan Hall is one of them. And he's, what does he say? He's like, don't be scared, be prepared.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet he never thought he'd be mentioned in an astrology video. That's funny. Hey, I'm going to tag him at Ryan Hall, y'all. So the next thing we have is another square Friday, and that's Mars square Jupiter. And that's extra, you know.
Can we look at that chart?
Yep, we sure can, because that's going to be a whole thing.
Luckily, Jupiter's exalted and Mars is exiled. So there's a little bit of like dignity to the benefic and a little lack of dignity for the malefic.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, 1962 was when Uranus was in Virgo, before we leave that completely. I was looking at that and I was like, why am I in 1962? Okay. So let's share this chart. Here we go. Mars square Jupiter, September 4th, 9:58 p.m. is what I've got. And I have it on September 5th, but I mean, it's going to be active that whole time. I don't know why. I just get times wrong, I guess. That's what I do. Where is the moon? Okay.
Over there, Aquarius, right next to Pluto.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's sort of square on the 3rd too. Just looking at how it makes this T-square, because that kind of means Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's going to pop off. Always, if the moon is squaring something before it makes its perfect square point, I always think that has I don't know, that's like when you might not start to notice it.
Well, something similar will happen at the end of the month too, that we were looking at before we started recording, so we should bring that up when we get there.
That's right. So you might start to look at this September 3rd as coming into your awareness, and that's the morning of September 3rd that the moon is squaring Mars and opposing Jupiter. And this is cardinal signs. So cardinal wants to move. So Mars wants to move. Mars is more reticent in Libra, I think. It doesn't necessarily know exactly how or what. It's balancing a lot of things. Mars is so used to being, its domicile is Aries. So it's something that usually it knows what it wants to do, where it's going, and sometimes it just acts before it even thinks. But Mars in Libra, being in a place that it doesn't necessarily work that way, it almost has to check out things first. It's more reticent to move. But the square to Jupiter and Moon, that might be a time when we realize, oh, we are making some movements in this Libra area. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it does feel like kind of the gears start to turn at this point, before that direct square between Jupiter and Mars. Jupiter has the upper hand. It's placing its upon Mars, and maybe that's kind of the motivation that Mars gets to go forward, because Mars in Libra, it's like checking out, like, is this okay? Can I do this? It's like unsure of the action to go, and maybe that square from the exalted Jupiter over there in Cancer is like, I'm bringing this to the table so that you have to make a decision. And the tarot card with this one is the 3 of Swords, like the heart with the 3 swords in there, and being stuck kind of in an eddy of decision, like having a third decision to come in there to really triangulate a little bit, or just like offer perspective of, well, I didn't really like either of these choices, but both of them are better than this other option that just showed up. So it is just this, it's getting it out of your mind and making it happen. And yeah, I think when that moon kind of opposes Jupiter and is squaring that Mars there, it starts to turn, but then really perfects once that exact square happens on the 4th and the 5th.
Yeah, and let me just look to see. So Mars is at 19 by the night of Friday. So, and it's still active. It's just a little bit past. So I would just say that whole week is, it's funny how we get the mercurial square where we realize that maybe something's not working or something happens, and then Mars squares Jupiter. It's like, okay, well, have to make movements, here, like physical movements. So yeah, I mean, and the moon will be in Aquarius. It goes from Capricorn into Aquarius during this, and that means the moon will hit Pluto right in between that. And there is a sense that, we've got to kind of take control of something, I think. Or we need more control in our lives. Things kind of feel out of control, especially on the heels of the Mercury square Uranus, I think. And Mars square Jupiter is it's so much that there's no choice but to act,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree. And
yeah, there's no sitting on your laurels that weekend.
No, there's not. Because the next day, for Saturday the 6th, is Uranus retrograde in Gemini. And then the 7th is the eclipse. So maybe we should go look at that in the chart, because the weekend is also very full. First week of September, fully through Sunday, is something pretty much every day,
Yeah.
Let's go look. So Uranus retrograde, we'll go to that exact chart. This is Friday, September 5th at 11:51 p.m., Saturday, September 6th at 12:51 a.m. on the East Coast. And then you can see the time zones there. So if you're
to the UK, it's like that early that morning, probably at sunrise. Yeah.
Saturday. Yeah. So these things happen on different days sometimes, depending on where you are at in the world. And, speaking of, there is this really cool class, if you're an astrologer, called Astronomy for Astrologers, that OPA puts on. And it really does bring that chart into physical reality when you start to look at the sky and you realize, oh, I'm here in this area seeing this star, and someone on the other side of the world seeing something different. It's really neat to think about.
Yeah.
But you can't really see Uranus. I think you could
with a telescope. Yeah.
You can with a telescope in a dark sky park or something. But I do think before the advent of light, electric light, you might could pick up on Uranus. I think you might could have. But retrograding means it looks like it's going backwards in the sky, and it becomes more internal. And Uranus is freedom and innovation and revolution and unexpected changes. I do think Uranus is definitely an agent of chaos and change. And retrogrades I think they do several different things. I do think it turns some of it inward, but I also think it's a time that actually things do change whenever a planet stations retrograde, something changes, or you have to rethink something. And especially in Gemini, the rethinking is a really good word. And we were talking about Mercury retrograde and how now that it's, because we're recording this Thursday, August 21st, by the way, so it's still not even out of shadow, but how it's still felt, it was a horrible, hard retrograde. And now it's still feeling retrograde-y. And I think that's because of Uranus and Gemini and the South Node in Virgo.
Yeah. That's what we're blaming it on.
We are. Blame. The blame game is the name of the game.
Well, when I look at like Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, because they move so slowly and they retrograde a lot, right? They retrograde for good portions of the year. And I think about just our concept of time. And if you look at things in a historical view, 200 to 300 years is not that long. And so if you train your mind to look at changes in a larger picture, in that Jupiterian larger picture, you can see even the subtlety of larger shifts in politics and in gender norms and in agricultural patterns. You can see these big things shifting, but when you're in the middle of it in modern life, and you're looking at Uranus slowly moving, you don't see it. It's still happening. And I think that the retrograde motion helps us. It inspires us, whether we realize it or not, to reflect on that energy of the planet. And I think that retrogrades are a great time to understand the outers, because when they're going forward, especially these, none of us have experienced these together like this ever in our life. And so the retrograde, it's like we're able to experience something again, because we've experienced Pluto in Aquarius with Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini just this year, but we're able to go back over a little bit and get a little bit of an idea of what that all means. And then we're going to go over those degrees again. But the first time we experience it, none of us have experienced Uranus Pluto in Aquarius at 5 degrees. Like nobody alive has. But we will all get to experience that. And when it retrogrades over that degree and goes back over, it's just like it gives us a little clue on what these larger patterns are. But in the onset of it, it's just really, really hard to see. And I kind of like Uranus and Gemini, but I don't know exactly what trouble it's gotten into, whether it's good trouble, bad trouble. But I'm suspicious of it being kind of this trickster agent with other transits, especially in the Mercury temples. And I'm just gonna. I think that it's going to be a good practice to go over degree and minute of each one and look at the days from what was it, May 24th, 25th when it moved in, up until the time it went retrograde, and then try to look at mirrored news events to see if it repeats, because I think that's a way to see what it might have been like basically dust the fingerprint of the old news with maybe what Uranus has been a part of. It'll be a fun little experiment, at least for this Uranus piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's it, especially history. That's one of my favorite things to look at with just transits in general, but especially the outer transits. I love that. So I think that's good.
That's all your Sag in your chart.
That's right. I'm like, ooh, let me go read this transcript from, a court hearing in England in 1542. Oh, look, Uranus was in Gemini. That's crazy. So I think too, speaking of, there's this minor grand trine happening between the outer planets that are really active. And when Uranus goes retrograde, I mean, they're really close to being so exact. They're just minutes apart from being in a minor grand trine. With outer planets, that's still pretty far. You almost have to get within, like, I don't know, 5 minutes to be an exact minor grand trine. But this is active. I mean, and I think Saturn being maybe the catalyst for a lot of it, because outers tend to work on bigger time scales, like you said. Saturn's quicker. So Saturn being with Neptune in this minor grand trine is a big deal. But that is usually good. They're all talking to each other. They all sort of have some understanding of each other. And so I think that in our lives, we'll look back at this time, probably, yes, on a global historical level, but also personally, what was happening around this time. And I mean, big things are happening in my life. And I think a lot of people, I'm hearing a lot of those stories, people wanting to change careers, people divorcing, people having babies. There's just so many big life changes happening. Even like cutting off their mom, like someone like, I'm not talking to my mother anymore. Things like that are really happening on a wide scale, I think, in people's lives. So
yeah, also just like globally too. I mean, there's a lot of shifts just with the dynamics of global politics. There's some wars that have been going on for quite a while now that have really entrenched divides within countries and communities, and the diaspora of all of these people, of refugees. I mean, we always have people moving all over. But the amount of death and refugees and relocation, it's like the tectonic plate of culture is really cracking open. And I see that with those outers being all together in these masculine signs of the air and the fire, like really shifting things and making the change. And that's partly why I'm looking forward to Saturn kind of getting out of that picture, going back into Pisces and be like, I'm gonna get out of the pool for a little while, just sit in the shade and like think about when I want to get into it next. So
love it. Let's go to the eclipse the next day. There we go, September 7th. So
I like this eclipse.
I do too. This is my favorite, probably of all of this eclipse cycle. It just feels more benefic and twinkly and sparkly than the rest of them do. So it's at 15 degrees of Pisces. Uh, I would say that's a trine to Jupiter. It's within 4 degrees. And I think that's the best part of this because Pisces is ruled traditionally by Jupiter. Jupiter's pretty expansive. It's almost like this is a time we can, I don't want to say completion, but there is some sort of like, hey, you've made it this far situation going on here. And maybe you get a gift, maybe you get a break, maybe you can enjoy this Sunday and that's enough for you. But it does feel like there is a break here. And I don't mean like breaking, I mean like we get to take a seat, you know.
Yeah, because the last one that happened in March, Jupiter squared it. So like just
Mhm.
having the trine, having that flow, it's like, okay, well, what was really challenging of that last eclipse? And that challenge has now become and moved on to being then something supportive.
Yeah. And in my own life, I can see because we're trying to get an album out. And it's been hard to get it out. There's been lots of things going on, and with every member of the band, even our drummer was like, "Yeah, I started a new route at work," you know. And I was like, "Okay, so everyone's going through it. All right, how are we going to get this album out?" Wanted it to be August 30th. I was trying to avoid eclipse season, and now I see the eclipse season is probably going to be when it happens, no matter what I do. But this is just a personal story. This eclipse is on my moon, and my moon's in Pisces in the ninth house at 19 degrees, and it's pretty close to my moon. The north node's there, but that is what I always look at with my music is my Pisces moon in the ninth, you know. And so yeah, this date will probably be when it goes on streaming services and it goes live, if I had to guess. And a lot of times that is what eclipses are. Not a lot of times, that is what they are. It's fate. It's things that are out of your control, things that, you know, it's the hand you're dealt. That is what an eclipse is. This is a North Node eclipse, and the North Node is insatiable. It can only think of this thing. And so that's really how my life has been the last few months. I'm only thinking of getting this album out. The next thing, I have the next thing in mind, but I can't do the next thing until I get this album out. So it is insatiable. It's that North Node, head of the dragon. I've got to eat this area of my life. And so there may be some of that vibe going on. Whatever you feel that way about is likely what this eclipse is going to paint.
Yeah, I love that. I have the I Ching, a translation of the I Ching that I really like, and I through it the other day, and I had this kind of question, and I'm much more careful with the I Ching than I am about just checking a chart, even though it is both asking the oracle and divination work. But for some reason, I choose when I throw the I Ching, and I got the hexagram that basically says like you already know the answer. And when you were talking about like the North Node in Pisces, like what has been preoccupied on the mind, if you're unclear about that, then I think the eclipse day will really like highlight it for you of what it is that you have been consuming that isn't necessarily fulfilling yet, but you still keep going back to that dish at the potluck to just keep eating more and more and more. Like, what is the symbolic food that you're consuming? Like, what are you trying to nourish? What area of life is the Pisces house for you? And that eclipse will be this moment because like we don't get what's the eclipse happening in the spring? Like, do we not get you're muted.
It's a hybrid.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
you're right.
So this is a nice big juicy one that we get, and I hope that it'll be reflective. I mean, outside of an eclipse, it's a full moon, and the moon is there at that point to reflect back all of the truths and all of the light and all of the information and illumination and enlightenment that the sun is casting. And because it's so close to the nodes, it's why it's an eclipse. It's why we don't have two eclipses in Virgo for the month, right? Because we had a new moon in Virgo in late August, and we're going to have a new moon in Virgo at the end of the month. But because the new moon in Virgo happens closer to the node is why there's an eclipse there. And because of that, it's this fated moment. And for the full moon, it's like all the cards are on the table, all of the illumination is there. And so if you don't know kind of what to expect of it, I wouldn't try to make anything happen. I would really just bask in what is being shown. And that like you probably already know what this is about, but if you don't, the moon will be there to have a big old table for you to sit at and see all of the stuff from your Pisces house.
Mm-hmm.
I love that
agree.
Mercury is at home. So Mercury is witnessing this. Jupiter can see Pisces. Jupiter is witnessing this. So it really does feel like a fated moment where the players that are kind of holding the strings are at least within sight, if not actually in the room happening. So out of all of them this year, this is kind of my favorite one. But famous last words, it might just be like a super shitty day. We'll find out.
Yeah, hopefully not. I mean, I completely agree though. I mean, I'm looking at it positively. I think it'd be different if it was a south node, but because it's the north node, it just feels, Jupiter trying the south node is like, remember who you are, remember what you've done, but Jupiter trying the north node is like, this is where I want to go. So I think that's a good way to look at it. And the next week we don't have much, and it's kind of like nice that we get a break. It's
usually happens like that.
Yeah, we'll need to understand everything that happened the first week, and then it's mainly the moon aspecting things, which it will. The moon in Aries will aspect Jupiter and Mars. The moon in Taurus will aspect Pluto and Mercury by trine Mercury square to Pluto, and the moon in Gemini will aspect pretty much, I guess it'll aspect Saturn, the nodes, Uranus, there's a lot. So it's Pluto, not that it's
Mars.
Yes. It's not that it's not moving, right? That whole week. It's the moon is checking on everything after all these changes. That's what it feels like. It's like, hey, how are you?
Well, and the moon will be waning too. So I think just it's nice when there's not a bunch of other things that we have to contend with as the moon wanes, because like the culmination of the full moon, and then as it wanes, we get to, it's a disseminating moon, right? It helps to kind of like let things fall into place and release things and have that that relaxation after like a really intense emotional workout that any full moon will bring, but a full moon, a Pisces moon, I like having kind of that break as it goes down, because then the next thing we get is the Cazimi.
There it is. I have a group of people talking, and it's because I looked at the Sabian symbol. So let me share the chart so that we can look at that, and then I'll go look at the Sabian symbol, because it almost had group work. And I liked that, because I do feel like with Mars in Libra, you have Pluto in Aquarius. There's some social things. And then I think there's something with, what was I thinking about? How Venus maybe aspected Pluto and it went into Leo and it's still in Leo. But there's just this group situation here that I feel like will be important. So let me read the Sabian symbol. And that is it's 21 Virgo, right? Because it's at 20. Yeah. So you read for the degree after. And 21 Virgo is a girls' basketball team. So I like this. It's physical training as a means to inculcate, I don't know exactly what that means, the feeling of participation in collective culture. So a definite type of educational activity is implied with cultural as well as emotional overtones, and applies to training for group integration, a type of consciousness more specifically receptive to collective forces of girls. So it's saying the girls' basketball team is receptive to these collective forces, and they're having to integrate maybe their knowledge in order to understand what's going on at an emotional level. And I like that because it's sextile to Jupiter.
Can I tell you what inculcate means? Because
what does it mean?
It's to instill an attitude, idea, or habit by persistent instruction.
Super good for this specific Cazimi, because And yeah, I was looking at how it's sextile Jupiter too in Cancer. And it does like indicate you're gonna maybe need to talk it out with someone. I know that these aren't necessarily relationship signs, but I mean every sign is a relationship sign somehow, you know. So this specific Kazemi does feel like I don't know, the South Node throws me off a little bit with this Kazemi. How about you?
Well, I mean, I'm preoccupied because it's happening like half a degree away on my Saturn. My Saturn is at 2016. Um, so the South Node there, I appreciate the South Node in Virgo as that place that I think helps balance out Virgo a little bit because the South Node is like that falling away from the earthly, tangible reality. Like the North Node is like that hunger for more in this existence, and the South Node is that surrendering into a more spiritual way. It can act as like a porous drain where things just fall through, but it can also just be letting shit go. And
Mm-hmm.
I am experiencing the South Node in Virgo in a really lovely way of like knowing when to hold on and when to let it go, and the letting it go and letting things, it's separating the wheat from the chaff, like when you have a basket and you shake it in the air and you let the wind take the chaff away, and what you're left with is the good stuff. And to
Mm-hmm.
me, that's the action as the South Node is just like letting all of that detritus be carried away, and to have a Kazemi so close to it, I feel like will inform the South Node will also be informing that Kazemi realization. It
Mm-hmm.
will help Mercury distill or inculcate a really beautiful idea that is not preoccupied with stuff that does not matter, doesn't serve. I had a dream, it's been a couple of weeks now, where I was trying to clear a haunted house by with some ghosts that did not want to leave. And it wasn't working. And I was like getting a little I was getting a little fearful in the dream of like my usual tricks aren't working. Like, why can I not like get these spirits to move out? And a friend of mine walked into the dream and she said, you can't just expel these spirits out. You have to invoke yourself into the space so that there's no space for them to return. And
Mm-hmm.
as a symbol of of kind of a Virgo nature is to cleanse and to clear and to make space and make order. But if you have like a counter in your house that is always filled with some sort of junk, it's like we call it the surface, right? It's like the surface always gets stuff thrown on it. If you always have it clear, but you have designated the space in kind of a really beautiful way, like you have wiped it down with holy water. You could make holy water, by the way, by just burning a bay leaf, putting it in water, and voila, you have holy water. That's what the Greeks used to do. You can wipe it down and you clear the space and you've invoked it to be a sacred space. And so it's like a natural deterrent to then just fill it up with the earthiness of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep it that sacred spiritualness. And that's how I'm kind of thinking of the South Node with that Kazemi is we get an idea. The South Node is there to help release anything that's all the junk mail off of the surface of whatever you're Kazemiing. And I feel like it'll help instill a really beautiful spiritual Virgoan habit, idea, attitude, whatever within this Kazemi moment. Like I think this is an incredible Kazemi because the South Node is there helping us let go and not obsess over the details that do not matter, that nobody cares about to begin with, and to teach Virgo how to like release it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, to me, this is my
Yes.
favorite day.
It is. And plug, we're doing our workshop, our eclipse workshop this day, September 13th. And we've chosen between the eclipses because it has been so crazy for a lot of people, especially me in our group, Asteria Sophia Kairos, which is our collective. And I was thinking about the Sabian symbol, a girls' basketball team, and how we're all doing this. It's a bunch of women doing this together. So, anyway, plug for our workshop. If you watch this, please sign up. It's pretty cheap as workshops goes.
Yeah.
And
Like 20 bucks, something like that.
yeah,
It's super cheap.
you get 3 hours, 4 to 5 astrologers, one might have to record. But we'll look at your charts and in breakout groups as well as go through what the eclipses mean. And it's just, yeah, I mean, I'm glad we chose this Kazemi day to do it because
Mm-hmm.
it feels cathartic. It almost feels like alchemy in
Yeah.
some way. There's some alchemical thing happening this day. And the moon's in Gemini. So the moon is answering to Mercury, which is
Mm-hmm.
being, I almost want to say, for some reason, I almost want to say emboldened by the sun, because it just feels like it's got its marching orders
Mm-hmm.
now, you know? So I think this will be a great Kazemi. I'm excited.
There's this throwaway comment in a Robert Hand lecture that no, a Robert Schmidt lecture that I listened to, and it talks about if you were born um, with a Kazemi, like if you were born with a planet in the heart of the sun, during perfection years, the years that you're in that planet, like say you were born on this day and you have a Mercury Kazemi in your chart, and so on Mercury perfection years, Mercury is your time lord, but Mercury also can pull the power of the sun on those years. And
Mm,
similarly, if you have a combust planet, like say this was like a couple of degrees away in a different sign, because in Virgo it's kind of protected in its own chariot. Let's say you were born Sun in Libra, Mercury is a few degrees away, and so it's combust. It's kind of it's burned up. On years that Mercury is your time lord, you get that you what is it you no, when the sun is your time lord, you get to borrow the energy from Mercury during these perfections. And there's not a lot of like texts that go to verify it, but it's this little sliver that has stuck with me. It's like I can't I can't set it down, even though I haven't been able to like verify it by another source. It's only like one source. It's I think it's Dorotheus that he got it from. But there's something about the power and potency of the exchange of energy between the planets during this Kazemi moment. And the sun is like the big guy, right? And so with the sun and another planet, they do get marching orders. They do get something very powerful in this moment. And if we choose to really pay attention and journal or gather or wipe our minds with holy water, so to speak, if we make the space sacred, we also get a tiny glimmer of whatever that Kazemi insight is from the sun. And that's why I love Kazemi so much, because it's such to me, a great gateway of seeing how ominous and holy and wonderfully experienced astrology can be. Kazimis are just, it's like this nice tone of a singing bell that just like really harmonizes so much of the experience by the energy of that Kazemi moment. Like they are unlike other aspects. They're unlike lunations. They're unlike full moons. They're unlike comets. I mean, they just Kazimis, and we get a couple of them a year, which is awesome. And they're just my favorite for that. And again, the South Node being there, I think will just like really help us let go of the material expectations. Like you're not going to be thinking like, what kind of fucking content can I make out of this moment? It's like really surrendering to this beautiful connection with the sun and Mercury because the South Node is there, that I think it's just really incredible.
You
So
know, their declination's really close to the sun is 3 degrees declination and the Mercury is 5 degrees declination. So the reason I look at that is because when declination, that is kind of where it's at on the ecliptic, when they're exactly it, then one is actually transiting, you know,
yeah.
the other and moving in front of it. So they're very close to that. And I don't think we get Mercury at the same declination as the sun very often. When we do, we get all those cool photos of Mercury in front of the sun. It
It's
looks
like a little
tiny.
eclipse. Yeah.
Yes, a little Mercury eclipse. So it's close to that. And that's something to note too, is that everything is putting its power into this Kazemi. And what I mean by that is Venus is giving its power to the sun, which is giving it to Mercury. Jupiter is giving it to the moon, which is giving it to Mercury. Saturn is giving it to Jupiter, which is giving it to the moon, giving it to Mercury. And then Mars is giving it to Venus, giving it to the sun. So there's just everything is like putting itself behind this, I think. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's like mutual aid, or like it's like everything's being thrown into the mercury pot.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's a date to pay attention to. We've got it the 13th, and it's just before sunrise. So when the sun rises that morning, I mean, it's really right there just before sunrise. You can maybe think to yourself, Mercury's up there, go out for sunrise on Saturday morning. I think that would be nice.
Yeah, for me, the it's 5 degrees away from the ascendant for my location.
Yeah, it's a little bit further for me. It's 8 degrees, but not much. But we must be like 3 degrees away from each other. So yeah, that's a really, really nice day. I like that. And we deserve it after the week before. We deserve it. The next day, the moon's in Cancer, always nice because it will be meeting up with Jupiter, but it will square Mars as well. So we get a little bit of a mixed bag on Sunday and Monday. But the 16th is on my radar because Mars is doing two things. It's opposing Chiron and it's making a sextile to Venus. Sextiles are opportunity. That's how I look at sextiles every time. And Mars being action, Venus being receptive. There's this really nice interaction between the masculine and feminine. I think also the fact that it's opposing Chiron. Chiron is an ouchy spot. That's the way I like to think about it. It's kind of the scab that, doesn't heal very fast and you might accidentally hit it again and it opens back up. You have to take care of it. And that's Chiron, the wounded healer.
Well, does that mean that Venus is trining it? Can we look at that chart for that day?
Yeah, it should.
I didn't have it on my radar.
Sure.
Yeah. And I did want to mention, I looked, so on the coast in the US in Wilmington, I just looked at Wilmington, North Carolina for the Cazimi day. It's less than a degree off where the sun rises at the Cazimi moment. So if you live on the beach on the East Coast,
oh yeah,
I would watch the sunrise that Saturday morning because that's a really, really sweet time. I watched a Venus Cazimi sunrise back in 2022, I think. It was in Leo, and I walked out to watch the sunrise, and there was a woman with all these different 7 like crystal singing bowls, and she was out there and I was like, this could not be more magical.
Oh my goodness, that does.
So you never know, what's going to be there. But if you're on the East Coast on that Saturday, I would go watch the sunrise because you're going to get it right there on the edge.
Yeah, and I mean, within 17 minutes is traditionally right. It's 17 the Cazimi,
Yeah.
So likely me and you will probably be able to catch it, I think, at sunrise. And I'm going to try. But this is Tuesday, September 16th. And this is Mars opposing Chiron, sextile Venus. Let me get the exact moment though. I'm still at the, I'm going to do Mars sextile Venus instead. Come on now. Yeah, so that's actually 10 p.m. And then Mars opposing Chiron is
the next day.
So, and they move degrees together. So they're still sextile even the next day. Where's Chiron? Yeah. And that's 10:46 a.m. So from Monday night into Tuesday, we're getting this sextile with Venus and Mars. I mean, they're still within minutes of that sextile and the opposition to Chiron. And I call this, whether it's right or wrong, a painter's knife, sort of. I like that. And also, I just feel like whenever there's a sextile and an opposition, it just gets to the heart of something, like we're scraping out a line that needs to be scraped out. And I think Chiron in Aries, gosh, it's been there forever. It spends a lot of time in Aries. When it's in Aries, it's a very slow mover. But I want to say Chiron is either as big or bigger than Pluto. They call it a dwarf planet, it comes in more and more for me when I watch the transits to it. But there is I guess a situation here which we become aware of a place maybe we've been wounded, and wherever Aries is in your chart, it makes a lot of sense because Saturn's been in Aries, Neptune's in Aries. We just had eclipses there previous to these Pisces eclipses. So the Aries area is very raw, and I think Venus trining it offers this kind of nice touch on the shoulder. Mars opposing it is like, see, I told you so, or something like that. Or are you aware of this? and Venus comes in to kind of bridge the gap. You know, it's not, if it were just Mars opposite Chiron, I might be a little like, ugh, but this is, you know, got Venus involved in it. So I think
Yeah,
there
and
is,
Venus rules Libra, which is where Mars is. So I do
right.
feel like it is that kind of that good opportunity of support, even if it is a little painful.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you can't heal a wound unless you know, first go, oh, it's there. You know, you can't heal a wound unless you pay attention to it. So this is one of those moments, I think. I do like that the moon's with Jupiter, so but I mean it'll probably be emotional. You know, I would just keep that in mind on that day. It could be something as simple as like the gas station attendant clerk says, you know, what's with the hair, man? You know, or something like that. You go, what? What are you talking about? So it's kind of that sort of, it could be deeper than that too, but it can also be just as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. A friend of mine was we were talking and she was like, I don't know, I've never cried at a Bon Jovi song in my life, but for some reason it made me cry, make me think I need to go visit my mom. Like, where did that come up? And that's what it reminds me. It's like these things bubble up and be like, I didn't realize that that was a painful spot, but here we are. And
Exactly.
Cancer moons will totally do that. Totally do that.
Yes. Yes. And I think that there is a possibility here on maybe your not so typical Tuesday. So the next thing is Mercury in Libra, and then we get Venus moving signs. So we can look at both of those days.
Yeah, they happen
Because
really quick. It's like 12 hours apart, I think. They
yeah,
kind of switch over. And we
they're
haven't
both
really
moving
talked about
fast.
like Venus and Leo is such a
Oh,
fun transit. Like we've talked about so many other things, and I realized just looking at that, I was like, Venus and like
where
that
is it at?
fiery
On the
sign.
first. There
I
we go.
mean, it's 8 degrees
On the first.
on the
Yeah.
first, it's gonna go into Virgo where it's fallen because it's exalted in Pisces. Like I really like the Venus and Leo transit, and it happens pretty quick. She's not retrograde in Leo this time. Um, there was definitely that summer of Hollywood breakups when Venus was retrograde in Leo. We just get like this nice smoothed out fiery, bold road for Venus to be. Um, I also like Venus in Virgo. I know she doesn't have a lot of dignity there. It's such a witchy time for Venus to be in Virgo, but
Yeah.
I like the bold brashiness um, of a Leo Venus.
I'm
And a
looking
shout out to
because
all the fabulous Venus Leo people out there because
heck yeah.
you all deserve praise for your wardrobes and your attitude and your big shiny smiles.
I agree. I love Venus and Leo. And that's my second house of money. So maybe it'll help.
Or your taste will get incredibly exquisite during that
Yeah,
transit.
yeah. Yeah, I'll be like, oh man, I wish I could have that Cartier bracelet, but whatever. Um, so I was looking because the moon ushers it into Virgo, and I think that is so appropriate. It conjoins Venus on Venus Day at 7:21 a.m. Central, 8:21 a.m. Eastern.
You know what that reminds me of is like Cinderella having to leave the ball before she transforms back into a maid. That is, it's like the moon is the pumpkin chariot that is like taking her out of Leo and taking her back into her area of service and going back into Virgo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Might have to rewatch Cinderella.
Ah, there you go. It does kind of feel like that. So, I mean, the ingress is both of them together pretty much, which is amazing. There's the moon first,
That's super cool.
and then what? A few minutes later. Yeah, really not even 30 minutes. There you go. Venus and the moon in Virgo. So Venus and Virgo, I mean, I think anything in Virgo, we have to talk about how eventually it's going to hit the South Node.
Wah, wah.
And how at the very beginning it's going to square Uranus. Also, it's more like wah wah.
What?
uh, and I mean, that's Venus. Mercury does it right before that. So I got really wrapped up in the Venus moon thing, didn't I?
Yeah, but it's like Mercury moves so quick.
Yeah,
And then yeah, Mercury is not
there
in
it is.
Virgo long enough, in my opinion.
I agree.
I would like to file a formal complaint.
Yeah. So, okay. So, yeah, we are talking like 12 hours
Mhm.
because Mercury moves into Libra around 5:06 a.m. As I choke. Of course, Mercury in Libra makes me choke. September 18th, 5:06 a.m. Just before Venus ingressing Virgo. So, I also think that's quite funny because you get Mercury leaving its home sign and Venus about to enter it. And it's like they just miss each other.
Mhm.
Oh, poor Mercury. But Mercury moves into Venus. Oh, there'll be a mutual reception.
Yeah.
That'll be nice. So Mercury in Libra, I mean, that's your quintessential politician, like or maybe even mediator. Mercury in Libra does really well with cooperation, especially where conversation is held, and balance, and Mercury trines Uranus also very, very quickly. So you get this really, really strange Mercury trining Uranus to where Mercury also has a home in Gemini. And then you get Venus moving into Virgo. There it is. And Mercury will trine it, and then Venus will square it. So it's just such an odd kind of Thursday, Friday there. It's a vibe shift for sure.
Just looking to see, because Mercury in Libra reminds me of Leonard Cohen. I was like, I bet he has Mercury in Libra. He
I
does,
can
like
see it.
right in the middle of it. It is like the poet in action. It's like the poets that sit on the streets in New Orleans with a typewriter and like make poetry on demand. There's something like action oriented about cardinal signs, and Mercury there, totally yes, politician, communicator, orator, pastor, preacher, being able to channel it in a authoritative, fair, equitable way, but that also screams poet to me. And so I was like, I bet Leonard Cohen has Mercury in Libra. And I'm
That's
sure
so
I've
funny.
thought of that before because I really do like his chart. He's got Neptune and Venus. Um, how close are they? They are 2 minutes apart, Neptune and Venus for Leonard Cohen.
Wow.
In
I
in
love that.
Virgo.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And that's very, if you have ever listened to Leonard Cohen, you will understand why we're so taken aback by
Yeah,
that.
so this is like his placement: Virgo, Venus, Mercury, Libra. Like this is that. Like we also get Leonard Cohen's out of these sort of transits.
Oh, there you go. That's very true. So, as far as the mutual reception, I mean, it's a really great example that Leonard Cohen has it because of the way oh man, I almost can't put it into words because it's so comforting, but it's so deep and so thoughtful, you know, and his voice is just so smooth. And that mutual reception really does give smooth out of it, So,
He's also a Pisces moon, which helps tremendously.
oh man. Yep. I love it. So vibe shift Thursday, Friday, Venus and Virgo, that's also, we just had the Cazimi with Mercury and the Sun in Virgo. And I think this is a really great opportunity to be like, okay, I just purged all of my clothes. Maybe I should think about what I want to spend money on going forward in regards to maybe a new way of being with Venus square Uranus. Maybe things have changed in our lives and Venus and Virgo has to help put that into place. And yeah.
Yeah, and what I'm remembering is, we've had these two new moons in Virgo, right? We had
Mhm.
the one on August 23rd, which is at 0 degrees, 23 minutes. Like that's the moon has returned with Venus there at that first new moon. And so yeah, like the planning of like how do I want to Venusian this new moon area, because the first new moon was there at 0 degrees. The second new moon is going to be 2 days later
Mhm.
in Virgo at 29 degrees. So it does feel like that whole series of after Venus moves in, the moon moving through there and like doubling down on that new moon darkness and
Mhm.
intention and plant and seeding and all that. Yeah, I think that's just gorgeous. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think with Venus square Uranus here, it doesn't feel wildly like earth shattering. It just feels like a ping of, yes, I know this has changed. Yes, I know I have to maybe bring some balance to this area, or bring some, maybe some cooperation even to my speech and to how I do things, because Mars has been in Libra for quite a while. It feels like forever, even though it's moving a little faster now. But Mars in Libra has maybe sort of upset the balance of relationship in general, whether it be friendships or romantic, or just it's hard to get along with Mars in Libra sometimes. Or you feel like you have to get along, and that's making you resentful or something like that. So I think with Venus in Virgo square Uranus, it's almost like I know things have changed. I know maybe I've been annoyed or whatever, but I've got to bring some peace to this situation. That's just kind of what I'm intuiting out of it.
Yeah, I like that.
And then we might as well, because that happens, I think, exactly the next day on Saturday. And then here we are, the next day is the lunar eclipse. So that we go ahead and look at 29 degrees. This is the dun, dun, dun one. Dun, dun, dun. Because
Yeah, they're still in a square. I mean, like Venus is just at 2 degrees there.
Yep. So we've got, there's just sort of stressful things going on here, I think.
What do you mean?
I mean Saturn. That's what I mean. And Mars at the anaretic degree of Libra, which is otherwise known as the degree of crisis. I do think there's some pressure here. It's nice that Saturn's in Pisces. Jupiter's supporting the South Node by sextile. But I do think the mutual reception of Mercury and Venus is nice, because you have to think that if the solar eclipse is in a mercurial sign and Mercury's in Libra, but Venus is in the same sign as the eclipse, then there's got to be some ease in it because of Venus, I think. But Saturn is, responsibility and structure and pressure and obstacles, but also mastery. And so whether this moment could be a moment where we do decide to master something. It's like, okay, I've figured out that that's not working. Virgo solar eclipse on the South Node. The South Node is so funny to me because it kicks up dust. It's like I could see us trying to sweep out our karma, and some of it gets left behind just because when you sweep, the dust gets kicked up, and you get your allergies get annoyed, and you get it's like, don't get caught up in the dust that gets kicked up from the South Node while you're trying to clear it.
I want to interject this because this image of the dust and the mop and the broom has been coming to me, and that is totally this moment of having kind of like a mop in one hand and a broom in the other, because you need the broom to stir it up and the mop to suck it up, and the mop is Pisces and the broom is Virgo. So that is like it's gonna be work. It's gonna be the emotional labor and the physical labor, the intellectual labor and the spiritual labor. It is labor with Sun Saturn, but to be equipped, to be prepared, to have foresight of these things, but then also insight in the moment. You can then make the most of it so that they aren't so just tense without any sort of recognition of why it's tense.
Oh yeah, that's true. And I was looking at the Sabian symbol, which is totally intent upon completing an immediate task. A man is deaf to any allurement, which is total concentration required for reaching any spiritual goal. And I love this in part. This is a culminating step, the decision that results from a myriad of small choices. Still, a shadow of hesitation can remain. Attention may be distracted from the now by a voice from the past, which this is just the Sabian symbol. Not even, they're always right somehow, because the South Node is the past, right? So hesitation may be distracted by a voice from the past, glamorizing some old memory. The outer doors of perception and thought must be closed so the soul can complete its conquest of illusion. I love that. What is that phrase? conquest of illusion. That is what the North Node in
Mm,
Pisces is,
mhm.
you know? Um, Sometimes these things just give me chills because this degree, that's what the Sabian symbol was written about, without regard to the nodes. And the nodes just bring so much richness, or the Sabian symbol brings richness to this, to the nodes right now. But I love the total concentration required for reaching any spiritual goal. And I can absolutely see that with an energetic new moon in Virgo. That is total concentration, you know?
Yeah.
And Saturn in Pisces, is like, it's almost as much as people might not talk about Saturn this way, but it's almost the promise of mastery, with the total concentration, the promise of your conquest of illusion with the total concentration.
Yeah, and like Saturn is retrograde, it's returned back to Pisces. Pisces is a very sentimental sign. I think it's why Venus exalts there, because it is that sentimentality of remembering why we love things and how much we love them, because we have all the shared memory and the shared history. It's the feet and the zodiac man. So it holds all of the memory of the body that came before. Saturn is a retrograde approaching that exaltation degree where Venus finds herself exalted at 27 degrees Pisces. So it's like it is that focus on the mastery of understanding why. Like, why do I do any of it? It's because I care. It's because I'm mastering it so that I can like hold it for as long as I want, because I love it. I care for it. I'm sentimental about it. I'm compassionate about it. It is deeper. And so like to have that good container of Saturn in that emotional realm is a great, balancing to that aneretic Virgoan, just trying to get it done because it needs to be done. It needs to be finished before the clock hits midnight, sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree.
There's
And this might,
also, am I getting this right? There is also contra intisha between Venus and Mars, because if there's contra intisha over the line from Virgo to Libra, 29-degree Libra and 1-degree Virgo have exact contra intisha. So they're very close.
uh-huh.
The day before it'll be exact. So there is this secret opposition that is tense between these two happening at the same time as this new moon that caught my
Mm-hmm.
eye. We haven't had a lot of those. But we will
Yeah.
now that we're going into that season.
Yeah, and Venus is moving much faster. So because they had the sextile and now they're having the contra intisha, Venus is moving at 1 degree, 13 minutes, and Mars is moving at 40 minutes a day. So yeah, Venus is quite fast. Mercury and Venus aren't far off, but Mercury is probably the fastest. No, the fastest is obviously the moon, but the fastest of the personal planets right now. So just as a note, that means Venus is going to move pretty quickly as we go forward in the rest of the year, until it stops in its tracks and it starts moving slow. So what's the next thing? Let's see. Should we talk about some herbs right now?
Yeah, we talked before recording about just introducing. We both Mandy and I work with herbs just in our own family life and life in general. And so I was like, maybe we should just share some of that, because I do that with clients. I'm sure you do too. And we'll probably have something a little bit more deliberate and concise going into the fall and winter, of like ways to prepare and maybe some like list of herbs that you can use. But I just kind of texted it to her like an hour before we started recording. I was like, hey, do you want to like throw in some herbs or foods? And so the one that came to mind for me for the Virgo season was Triphala. It's an Ayurvedic blend of 3 fruits, and it's a neutral blend. It's a food, but people say Triphala is an herb. It's not an herb. It's a food. And it's just a great balancer. It's really great for digestion. It's really good for skin health because it's good for digestion, and just balancing the digestive, which is like the second brain. The gut's like your second brain, just to kind of bring some balancing to all of the squares from Uranus to Virgo, that nervous system shock. That was just one that came to mind for Virgo. And then I also just think of herbs and foods in relation to the moon, because the moon is our translator of the rest of the sky. And so I was looking at just things to help Pisces. And, there are plants that you can use that are just like Pisces. So you can find some plants that kind of bring you into that Piscean place. And but then sometimes you want a balancer of, we're already in a full moon Pisces. I don't want to be more Piscean than I already am. And so finding an herb that kind of can be the blend between the two of them, mint, like a very common plant, but is a really powerful plant that can help in dream work. So you can drink mint before you go to bed. But it's a really good clarifying. It's a vasodilator. Is that right? Or is it a constrictor? I think it's a vasodilator. And so it can open things up, and it can clear the mind, and it can, kind of burn off a little bit. It's a little heating, and that kind of energy. And I like mint for that burning off of things to really bring some clarity to the mind. So those are the two that I kind of came up with on the fly. What about you? What are you thinking of?
I like that. And I also thought nettle. I mean, that's kind of in line with what you're talking about with digestive and kind of cleansing and tonic support. But the one I keep thinking of our nervous system, our brains, they're super active this month. And, I think anxiety could easily be present this month. So I thought skullcap, which I have right here, skullcap. It's not a plug for the brand, but it is a plug for the herb. And also, because you're going the mint route, lemon balm. And I really love lemon balm just for
happiness,
nervous system support. And gosh, even the smell is kind of wakes you up a little bit, but it's still it's not overly rattled waking up. It's more, it's just like fresh, and like I feel like clarity, but also nervous calming.
It's so great for kids too. I love lemon balm for kids, and it's really great for viruses. Like, you think it's like really like gentle plant, just to kind of make you happy, but it is so good for viruses.
And that's something we need to actually probably talk about, because Pisces has been pretty implicated in in COVID pandemic and things like that. So these eclipses, there are Pisces stuff, and already there was a strange virus that went around this summer here that wasn't COVID, it wasn't flu, it was very long. I'm still probably dealing with after effects of it. But I've already heard that COVID spikes are happening with the start of school. So you might want to add an immune system. I think Triphalia has vitamin C in it.
Yeah.
So that's
the
good.
Amalaki in it has vitamin C. Yeah.
And lemon balm is really good it's an antiviral. You may do some elderberry antiviral. If your throat hurts, you may do slippery elm this month. Call in some of that Jupiter and Cancer.
Slippery elm would be great, just because it's like, it's so like slick and mucilaginous, which is so Piscean, to kind of soothe all like the irritated Virgoan tissue. Yeah, slippery elm is a great one.
Totally. So yeah, that's what came to me, and I thought talking about it while we were talking about the eclipses would be a good thing. So
my throat was like, where's the slippery elm? I need it right now.
I know. I feel like I do. And I love, there's a slippery elm. It's like a mint that you can get, but is it Fisherman's Friend?
There's Thayers. The Thayers.
Yes. Yeah. Gosh, I love them. And they taste so like honey-like, and they're so good. So that's an easy way to get your slippery elm. Is going to get some Thayers. And your mint, you could do the Fisherman's Friend. So just have a couple of those lozenges with you.
Yeah, I have Korean mint that's been growing in my yard all summer. I never grew Korean mint, and it is my favorite because it blooms forever. And I've gotten so many bees and butterflies on it. But the leaves are kind of licoricey, which I love. So if you like licorice, I would recommend Korean mint. It's just been like the most like stellar mint, and it grows really tall. It's not like a creeper that like creeps into every single part of your yard. It just like, it grows kind of like bee balm. But it's been my new favorite plant.
Oh, I love it. And I guess before Venus moves into Virgo, you could, while it's in Leo, you could it probably won't be ready, but you could go spend some time with goldenrod. I feel like Leo is a very goldenrod. It's a sun. It goes towards the
Mm-hmm.
sun. And I don't really have any. It's just how I've always felt about goldenrod. And sometimes, with herbalists do this thing called plant sits where they sit with a plant. And so even if you can't ingest or don't want to ingest any goldenrod, it's really good for allergies. But it's good to kind of sit with it and notice it. And it's such a beautiful golden, which that the Venus and Leo just kind of, it screams, be around me whenever it's blooming. And it's getting ready to, because mine has blooms on it already. So it'll be probably at its height in the first 3 weeks of September.
And a lot of people think that they're allergic to goldenrod, but it's the ragweed that they're allergic to.
Yep.
Goldenrod kind of gets lumped into that. Yeah, it is such a glorious, really, really beautiful plant.
It is. I have passion flower in my yard, and when it starts to die back, the vines kind of get tough. And I mean, I could cut it and tincture it. You can tincture every part of a passion flower. But what I like to do is, because this starts to get Halloweeny time, is I like to take the vines and wrap them into a wreath and stick goldenrod in it. So I have this big goldenrod passion flower wreath. Things like that they're just great little things to do, especially if there's stress or if there is a lot of movement. Sometimes it's nice just to sit and work with your hands, which is very Virgo, and work with plants. And I think this is a perfect month to start to introduce plant talk into our videos.
Yeah. I think just working with like doing something with your hands, like that's such a Virgo thing. But and I don't like to just say one sign is this over all the other signs. But I will say that I suspect that Virgo has the capacity to be the witchiest of all of the signs.
Oh, definitely. And I don't know exactly what date it is, but Opa is giving a presentation as why witches use brooms, and it's about Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a plug for that. It's really good. Okay, so I guess we can move on to another big shift, and that's the next day, if I'm right. I keep getting the days.
Yeah, we kind of got
slightly
lost in the garden.
I know, right? So the sun and the moon are at 29 degrees, 5 minutes. Let me go to the chart so we can look at this ingress. But they're just getting ready, and I can't remember which happens first. So let's look at sun in Libra. That happens 1:19 p.m. September 22nd.
I think Mars goes first.
Yeah, looks like it. So that is 2:54 a.m. So just kind of after midnight, after the eclipse day. The moon immediately moves into Libra right after the eclipse to meet Mercury, and Mars moves into Scorpio. And then, 10 hours later, 9 hours later, the sun moves into Libra. So at that point on the 22nd, we will have everything. I mean, it'll all be changed. So sun in Libra. There we go. It's so funny because it's so close to the end of Virgo, the eclipse was, that it's almost like it was a new moon in Libra, but it wasn't, because the moon and the sun are present right there. So I think the sun in Libra, we have that every year. I think the main thing is that it will trine Uranus right off the bat. It'll trine Pluto. It'll oppose Neptune. So it's making this kite, and that gets my attention. But so does Mars, because Mars will square Pluto immediately. So we've got two big kind of things happening with these ingresses on Monday, the 22nd. It's just a Monday. That's all. Just a Monday.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's the sun moving into a cardinal sign. So this is like a big shift in that wheel, the spokes in the wheel, the equinoxes and the solstices. Those are like the really pivotal points where the sun changes its direction. And so from Libra to the beginning at Capricorn, the sun is really dying. And we see that just in the northern hemisphere of the fall, like all the leaves fall. And I mean, I just on this day alone of the sun changing dignity, the sun is exiled in Libra because it's at home in the opposite sign. But just this pivotal moment, like literally pivotal, it pivots the light in a pretty tremendous way. I like that the moon is there, and I know what you mean. It's like the sun and the moon at that 29th degree together in Virgo. it is so close to Libra. It does feel kind of like it ushers in just Libra season with a new moon, even though
Mhm.
it's in the preceding sign. I do like that Mars gets out of there before the sun comes in. It's just like
Yes.
flipping out the back door.
Yeah. And I mean, they're obviously getting closer to conjunction, as you can tell. Um, so that's something to look forward to in the next few months. But I think with the sun ingressing Libra and Neptune at 0 Aries, that's a pretty big deal to have that on that cardinal 0 degree axis. And, you know, as I think you're making a point with Mars getting out of Libra, as the sun ingresses and makes these beautiful trines and this opposition, maybe there is some relationship thing that or even cooperation or whatever Libra has, whatever house you have it on, whatever it's been about for you. Maybe it comes to maybe an understanding or a balancing point right here. Neptune again is so slow, but it's so dreamy and so sometimes illusion making that this opposition feels magical. It feels like it could be magical, much less than stressful, I think. It's more like inspiration right here because there's a lot of air, the big grand air trine that's coming in the next day. So I think as far as that goes, I would pay attention to any ideas you have or any dreams you have around this time. Um, but Mars square Pluto is going to be a thing, and that is with the very next day, I think.
Yeah, and Mars is at home. I think Mars prefers Scorpio because Mars is a
It is,
nocturnal
yeah.
planet, and Scorpio is a nocturnal sign. I just look to see, so Mars and the Sun will conjoin in Capricorn, where Mars is exalted
Mm.
in January. So kind of like
Ooh,
that.
I do too. A good start to the year. A Cazimi, a Mars Cazimi with
Hmm.
in its exaltation. That's great.
Yeah.
And so I was looking to the Mars square to Pluto happens on Wednesday. So you have first the Sun trine Pluto and Uranus exactly on Tuesday, probably later in the day. And they're so close. Sun trine. Let's see, Uranus. Yeah, so that's 1 degree, 19 minutes. And then, I mean, Pluto's at 1 degree, 27 minutes. It's so close to that exact grand trine. That happens the evening of Tuesday. So,
And Mars is applying to that square. I mean, you know what this reminds me of is, there's been this whole Epstein, sexual predator case and the Epstein files of like who in power has been a participant and is complicit in keeping the powers that be over. I mean, like the foundation of it is like there were very young children being, assaulted. And
mm,
that abuse has been kind of widely known and also kept secret, and I see Mars squaring off to Pluto as Mars in Scorpio is all about defending and defending for good reason. There is a sense of authenticity and removing hypocrisy, and I love Mars and Scorpio kind of jabbing that Pluto, be like, it's time to reveal it, it's time to expose. So I'm wondering if it has something to do with kind of the collective undertones that both Aquarius and Scorpio have, and having that Mars Pluto square off
mhm.
of being like that. I mean, that's a month away, and it's something that it will affect globally. I think that there's stuff that's in there. It's not just a matter of assault on children, but it has to do with global finances and political power. I think that it's a bigger thing that people are the people that are complicit in it are scared to be revealed, because it's not just assault. It's probably a lot of like money laundering and all this other sort of things. Who knows? Like until that gets revealed, we won't really know. I find that square, and then yeah, the trine from the outers but to the sun. I
Mhm.
just suspect that something in that arena might be revealed and unearthed or excavated or exposed because of that Mars shift to
Yeah.
Pluto.
I mean, to have Mars and the Sun both interacting with Pluto is very, very intense. I mean, that's the word I would use, because Pluto is about power and secrets. So you're right. I could absolutely see something being revealed around this time. The sun brings the light to it. Mars brings the flipping over of the tables at the church, because they were selling fake, relics. That's kind of like what, or they were just selling stuff in a church. And I think that Jesus didn't like that. So he flipped the tables over. So you shouldn't be selling stuff in the house of God, right? So that's this Mars square Pluto, very, very much to me. And then the sun bringing the light and the justice to it. Absolutely. And then, you have Mars is also quincunx Uranus while the sun's trine it. So it's so funny. It looks like, I don't know, like cat ears or something. It's the connection with the outers is the big deal here. And Uranus shakes things up. Pluto definitely brings in gosh, I get an anvil, like a blacksmithing feeling from Pluto. And it's very much like trial by fire and earthquakes and things like that during this time. That's kind of how I feel.
And it might be because you use that color green, but I'm like, is this also disclosure of aliens,
Oh, I mean, yeah, with Uranus and Gemini, Pluto and Aquarius, I mean, that's the thing, is they're also trine. So it's so, and then you've got Neptune here. It kind of does look like a cat, doesn't it? Maybe the aliens will be cats.
Yes, maybe our cats actually are aliens, which is what a hypothesis I think
Yeah,
possibly could be true.
Yeah, they're like, we've been here the whole time,
Judging you.
So this day, really, really crazy. And I'm not talking about just this day. It's going to be, you've got the eclipse. Let me clear all this out. You have the eclipse, and then you have this pretty much right on the heels of it. So eclipse, then you've got Mars, Sun moving. They're already applying to this thing on Monday. Tuesday, it gets exact with the Sun. Wednesday, it's exact with Mars. And then what else do we have? Let's go to the calendar, I guess. I think we're getting close. So yeah, it's bookended. We got a crazy week here, and then a crazy, it's not the last week, but it's almost the last week. I mean, it is the last full 7 days, I guess, of the month. So then it's just, kind of easy peasy, is it? Maybe. I don't know. The moon will be in Sag. That'll be kind of nice. The moon doesn't like being in Scorpio, so that'll be kind of lame. The moon helps usher in Mars, so it will square Pluto almost immediately with Mars. The Sag moon, that'll square.
Kind of like that, like the moon ushered in Venus, and then the moon ushers in Mars too. I kind of like
Isn't
that.
that insane? I know. I like that part of it too. And then, I mean, of course, the moon will oppose Uranus, and it'll square Venus in Sag that weekend.
Yeah.
And the nodes. And I don't mind moon square Venus. It's actually kind of nice. So maybe that'll be good on the 26th day, 27th. Then moon in Capricorn. And this is what we're going to end the month with. This crazy T-square. Let's go to it. There it is. So the moon at this point, go to the hour, will square Mercury, and it will oppose Jupiter before Mercury and Jupiter exactly square each other. So this is what we call a T-square. If we want to include Chiron, which is pretty close, it would be a grand cross. And let's see, maybe I'll use yellow so that we don't scare everyone too much, but it's this, and then this. And a cardinal grand cross. I mean, we've had them before. We'll keep having them. I always get the Vitruvian Man from a cardinal grand cross. And I know it's the moon. It doesn't last very long, this specific grand cross. It is pretty much the evening of September 30th. And, there are we at? We're so close to the exact square of Mercury too. So close to it.
Yeah, it's like it's the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're being stretched, and the moon opposite Jupiter is it's big feels. The moon is in detriment or fall? It's almost like I refuse to learn that. Like
so if it's at home in Cancer, then it's far away from home in Capricorn, so it's exiled.
exiled.
Yeah, if it's exalted, think of it as like sitting up on a pedestal, but when it falls off the pedestal, it's fallen in the opposite side.
Thank you. I can never get that like just lodged in my head for some reason. I know it's not, I know it's opposite its home, but I just can't ever remember exactly the word
It's
for
a
it.
refugee, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, put on some Tom Petty this day, you know, because that's how it's
Oh my gosh,
feel.
is that his birthday too?
Oh, no way.
Wait, hold on. Google Tom Petty birthday.
And at the same time, Mercury is like, hey, I'm just over here trying to make things work.
October 20th.
Okay, so we're getting close to it. I wonder what hit does he have? I wonder if he has Mercury and Libra or something like that. There's something there because it does feel like a refugee moment. And I mean, Mercury is going to be opposing Chiron. It does feel very fundamental parts of our lives on this evening, whether we just talk about something, whether we just talk about plans or talk about things that have happened. But Mercury square Jupiter is a lot of conversation. And Moon opposing Jupiter is a big feels, you know, especially when you're feeling in Capricorn, it's almost like abandoned, you know. That doesn't mean every Capricorn moon feels abandoned, but it can feel that way with the moon in Capricorn. It can feel quite cold. But Jupiter is expanding everywhere the moon's at. So if the moon's in Capricorn, it's just like, oh, and Mercury in Libra wants some peace and it wants some interaction. So there is this push-pull here between, are we getting what we need? Do people see me for who I am? That's the Chiron in Aries. Why don't you just talk to me instead of ignoring me? It can be pretty intense, I think.
Do you want to know Tom Petty's stuff? So he has his son's Libra, but his moon is within that decan. They don't have the exact time, but it's either 21 degrees up to 27 degrees. Aquarius, sorry, it's a different one. Conjunct Jupiter, but his Mercury and his Venus and his Neptune are all right next to each other in Libra.
Oh, and Libra.
And Libra.
I knew he had to have some Libra.
Yep.
He's very Libran. I like to hear Australian astrologers and they say Libra.
Libra. Well, also the 21st degree of Libra is Saturn's exaltation. So there is like this point of like, this is where Saturn exalts in the sign and the degree. And so there is a bit of authority and mastery here, I think, within that Mercury gets to sit in. It's almost like Goldilocks sitting in the chair that Saturn exalts in at that exact degree. And yeah, it'll happen quickly, but quickly to make change is a very cardinal thing. It's like cardinal doesn't want things to like sit and fester and last too long. It wants to make it happen.
Yeah.
So this could be fairly fast and pretty swift. And overnight over into the first, you know, to really kind of create the tone for October.
Yeah, and it's pulling in this Mercury square to Jupiter, which happens. Oh, there it is. It's like in between 4 and 5 p.m. sometime. Let me see exact. I guess I could go look it up. There it is. 3:57 p.m. Central, October 1st. And what do we have here? The moon with Pluto. So it's the moon's just drawing that forward, it feels like, you know, because the moon's going to trine Mercury the next day. The moon's trining Uranus at this time, which has had so much interaction with the sun and with Mars, not with Mars, with the sun and Mercury. So yeah, I think the turn of the month is going to be, we're not going to take it feeling. That's it. We're not going to take it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Twisted
Going
system.
into the first, you know? So it's like refugee, and then we're not going to take it. That's what it ends with that. And I'm not going to put up with this kind of situation.
I like that we're giving you like this weird ass playlist to listen to.
I know. I didn't even mean to do that, but I've been saying I want to do it. So
yeah,
there we go. We're already doing it. But, you know, kind of that's cardinal right now. And Jupiter's in Cancer. You learn by where the moon's at, and you do it when you do it. And I think that's kind of the nature of this moment, even, the moon's in Capricorn, opposing Jupiter, and then all of a sudden it's in Aquarius with Pluto. And so it's almost like defeated, and then I'm going to empower myself, I don't know. I just like I I mean it's not necessarily a comfortable moment, but I like it. I want it. Maybe I want things to change. And I keep saying Do you know?
I say too. It's like filler words where I'm asking myself, like, do you know?
Do I know? Do y'all know? That's what Mercury wants to know. Really, I think here, do we know what is going on? And with the moon hitting Pluto on the first, and all of that happening with Pluto, Uranus, Sun, and we were talking about things being exposed. It feels like it continues into this moment, and then the moon hits Pluto, so
it's also just nice that Saturn is not there opposing the Sun and Mercury there in Libra. I just think that's really just a good experience for this Libra season. That we will get it next year, but not having Libra there, not having Saturn there opposing it is nice. And something that we experienced in August when we're recording this is the Venus Jupiter conjunction that happened on August 12th. And if looking at their cycle together, they're coming into a sextile. They're going to be at sextile at like 23 or 25 degrees on the 8th, but they're getting close enough at the end of the month of September where I feel like you might start to have some visibility of whatever good seed you planted or wanted a good change to happen because it happened in a cardinal sign, that we might start to get some glimpses of it by the end of September, beginning of October. Once it hits that exact sextile on the 8th, well, it'll be formed, but I believe that we will start to get this little crescent hint of what it's actually going to look like by the end of the month. And I feel like it might be ushered in by that eclipse. If it's just going to get a little bit more visibility as the days go on. So if it kind of rang hollow for you, or you weren't really sure what was going on, or there were just other things happening, we might start to be reflective backwards and see some good growth coming out of the soil of the seed that we planted on that conjunction day.
I love it. And the preview for October is there's a full moon first, October 6th in Aries, and then there's a new moon in Libra at the very end, October 21st, just as a quick preview, because they're gonna I always call them flipped. I really love calendar months that have new and then full moons, but that's what this Virgo season's changing. It's like just up in you have a full moon first, so
it cleaned house and it rearranged the furniture, so you got to get used to it.
That's right. Okay, I'll take another look at the calendar before we're done. And you've got Leonard Cohen, Tom Petty, and
Twisted Sister.
Twisted Sister, Sisted Twisters.
It's the three fates, really.
Yeah, that's right. The three fates. Oh my gosh. For your playlist, you've got some herbs and my favorite day, Kazemi, hands down. What about you?
Yeah, definitely Kazemi. And it coincides with us leading an eclipse workshop on that day. So I think that our bodies knew that it would be our favorite day too, because that was the date that we really kind of landed on out of frustration. We chose that day on the Leo Kazemi, and I was like, maybe we just needed the Kazemi to choose the next Kazemi. So yeah, the Kazemi day for sure. And even if you don't join us for the eclipse workshop, I hope that you have a really good Kazemi day, because I think it's a pretty special one. And we're right in the little elbow of the eclipses there on the 7th and the 21st. So yeah.
What's your most dreaded day?
Oy, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm more curious about the 3rd of Mercury squaring Uranus. I don't really have dread.
Curious about it.
Yeah, and I think that it's helpful just to have Saturn out of Aries. Saturn in Aries has been like way more dreadful than I had imagined. And so I think maybe that's why I'm like, well, Saturn's out of the way. Saturn is squaring my whole sign, the Mercury, Uranus, but it's so far away that I don't really care. I'm more curious about that. I think it could be the most disruptive, but dreading or painful, the 16th with Mars opposite Chiron could be. Yeah, I think the third is the one that I'm kind of like, I've got my antennas well dusted for that one, but definitely love the Kazemi day the most.
I'm not really looking too much forward to Mars square Jupiter. I know that it'll probably bring up some emotions and some conversations and things like that. But yeah, I think I'm glad we can agree here. And I think second to the Kazemi is the full moon lunar eclipse.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have your calendar. We're all going to get our marching orders this month. And I think that wraps it up.
Yeah. Thanks, Mandy.
Yay. Thank you. We appreciate everyone. Comment, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. We'll have probably the link for the workshop in the comments in the bio. Otherwise, I'm Mandi Rae of Ecstatic Astrology. I hope you have a great September. Wake me up when September ends. Sorry, okay, I'm done.
We're gonna have a whole playlist that we've got to elaborate on that one because it's already started. It has a life of its own at this point. All right, well, we'll see you in October.
Yes, and you're Christa of Practical Astros.
Oh yeah.
I interrupted you. All right, guys, thank you very much.
All right, bye y'all.
Bye.